Hey, you there. Thank you for watching, and welcome to Forge Lines Forever. Today, I have a 3v3 ladder match here on the most amazing Neuroxys map generator. So let's go ahead and introduce our teams and our players, starting off with Team 1 in the Northwest, ending with Team 2 in the Southeast, also known as the Blue Team, versus the Red Team. Starting off with Team 1's Amethyst Purple player, we have the 17-17 rated player of PSA, Nilo. I think I said that name partially right. I'm probably going to short that to PSA. He is an Aeon as a 17-17 rated player. To his northeast, we have right next door is Kota Pohebal with a nice little face there. He is a Cybran as a 1500 even. And again, he is in Royal Blue. And last but not least, for Team 1, another Aeon for their team. It is unknown. He is in Stitch Blue as a 2023 rated player, the highest rated player on Team 1 and in the game overall. And he is 1 year late to the party. If he was 2023 last year, he would have been perfect rating score for this cast. But unfortunately, it was recorded on 2024. So for Team 1 side of the map, they have 2 Aeon and 1 Cybran, which means Team 1 lacks UBF and Seraphim technology. Starting for Team 2's Ruby Red player here in the north, we have Cavat as a Cybran. He is a 1946 rated player, the highest rated player on Team 2. Another Cybran here for Team 2 in Chevy Crimson is Colorex PL. Going to call him Colorex for short. He is a 1600 even. It's really rare to have 2 players be exactly 1500, 1600, etc. I mean, it's rare to have 1, let alone 2 in one game, and it's a ladder match. So that's not rounded off. That is their exact rating in this game. And last but not least, for Team 2 in Orange, Color Orange to his west is Nya Marine. He is another Cybran here. He is a 1708 rated player. And again, he is a Cybrans over Team 2 side of the map. They only have Cybrans, no Aeon, no UEF, no Seraphim. So for the entirety of the match, there are only Aeon and Cybran players in this game, which means apologies to those loyal to the old End Empire, and apologies to those who love to make grand entrances but always arrive late. Hopefully, you will enjoy the match nonetheless. So let's go ahead and see what our players have to work with in terms of reclaim. Currently sitting at 3,400 mass, not a lot, but again, this is a 6-player game of 3v3, so it's about a little under 600 mass. I've seen obviously worse with more players, so again, 600, 500 or so isn't terrible for our players to scoop up, but it's definitely not going to be the oodles and oodles of mass we have seen in recent games. And in terms of mass point layouts, let's take a look at the game and where they are positioned and slow it down a little bit so we don't miss any of the early harassment. There is a Trimex here on this upper plateau for Team 2, as well as another Trimex here down here. We also have a Trimex in the rear that's going to go to Colorex. And then it's kind of a triple mix over here, Trimex position over there. It's a little farther spread out than I would like. There's a couple of mixes in the middle of the map here for our players to grab, as well as a couple here and here that will most definitely be fought over, and a couple of one-offs there. That looks like there is enough distance for one team to grab this one team to grab this one, and then just have a firebase war between the two of them. But we'll just see if one player or team grabs both of them or not. And again, for 3v3, let's take a look at where these players are moving to. We do see that 2 players for Team 1, that being Kota and PSA, have moved to the south to engage against Nya. So it's going to be a 2v1 in favor of Team 1. In the middle here, we have Unknown going up against Cavat. So it's going to be a 1v1 here. And it does look like that Team 2's Colorex is going to hang out in his base and go for a nice little air player shenanigans that we love to see in this game. We did see a couple of bombers and a couple of labs running around on the map here for both teams. A couple of labs were taken out by Team 2's defenses, but I think some of the engineers were caught in those engagements. We also see a transport with a couple of engineers outbound for this upper plateau. There already is an engineer here for Team 2's Nya. We'll see if that will stay there. He's going to go for Mexes first and then the land factory. The only issue is that Team 1's PSA already has the land factory positioned up and was almost online as well, and just going to send units immediately to deal with that one lonely engineer over there. And then again in the south, Team 2's commander of Nya is forced to retreat in the face of a 2v1 scenario against his opponents on Team 1. Kota is suffering a little bit in the hit points department though. He's at 9,000 hit points. Of course, the only comm with the hit point advantage in the game, or one of the two I should say, in this game is PSA and a No as an Aeon at 1,100 base hit points. But Kota is falling into the yellow, has to be very careful with how far and how long he sticks his neck out here, because the longer this game goes on, that can be very dangerous for Team 1's only Cybern player. In the middle of the map here, it looks like Unknow is falling back. Looks like he's taking a little bit of the damage in the low greens or the high yellows, depending on how you want to view it that way. Cavat is moving in to intercept, and I don't see anything on chat as of now. Looks like Unknow is continuing to retreat. Doesn't look like he wants to engage in this little kind of valley, whatever you want to call this, arrangement. It's very easy to hold essentially this position with units streaming in one by one from your opponent, so that's probably what he's thinking about, is just falling back, seeding in over a couple of mexes or two, and then just gonna again hold it there for now. He is gaining territory in the northeast against his opponent of Cavat, so Cavat a little bit more focused on this positioning with his commander, but we are seeing reinforcements outbound from Colorex to fortify this position here and force back Unknown on this northern side. And again, in the southwest, looks like Team 2's Nya has been able to gain, or at least hold his territory down here, and that does ring true. Team 1 has this mix over here, Team 2 has this mix over here, and it's just far enough away to be out of T1 PD range, so no real issues trying to hold on for both those mixes. But Team 1 has gained the upper plateau against Team 2's, I think that was Nya who had his engineer up here, who was able to build a couple of mexes, but that's really about it. Nothing really too damaging here for Team 2 to lose, but Team 1 again has gained territory on Team 2's side of the map. You could easily get some T2 artillery or PD, but in the north, Unknown Control Ks. I don't know if that's, looks like that wasn't a comm kill, because Cavat is back here. There's no other bombers nearby. There's no nothing. So it does look like that's just going to be a connection issue, whatever the case may be. Team 1 loses a player in the game, and it is now a 2v3 in favor of Team 2 with a couple of labs outbound from Nya. Looks like they were dropped off by a nice little transport. Going to raid against a couple of T2 mexes. Unfortunately for them, there is a blaze nearby. Definitely a good unit to counter those very fast-moving, very annoying little labs. And after that, those units are dealt with quite quickly. Looks like one mex has been taken out, but that was a Team 1. It's not really a huge loss there. Yeah, there's nothing in the comments about, or in the chat about what happened here. Must have just been some sort of connection issue. That's the only thing I can think of, because positioning wasn't bad. You know, there wasn't a huge raid going down here on the northeast. There wasn't anything like that, so none of the typical signs of a Control K, but it does happen in this game, and it does suck that it is in a 3v3 ladder, so, you know, 33% of Team 1's players have just evaporated. Definitely unfortunate. It does look like due to that, Kota will have to be retreated or forced to retreat and move in and cover this northeastern side that Team 2 is gaining a lot of territory from with the departure of Unknown, microing all of these forces up here. We do see another transport with some more units on board. Looks like there's more Medusa and some Mantis in the mix. And those are the only two forces there, but they drop right on top of some blazes. Would not recommend that, especially with the blazes. They have obviously more hit points than the Mantis. And of course they do fire very, very quickly, so those units are killed off. And they do kill off a T1 mix. Definitely not worth the mass cost. We have 22 mass for this one and a clump of 260 for that one. Definitely not worth the cost in units for that. But that is 2 mass a second, so 100 or so seconds later, and it will provide dividends. It's not great. It's not bad. It's definitely not great, though. We do see that Team 2's Cavat's going for a little bit more reclaim, and looks like he's going to fall back into this position, trying to control and maintain his advantage in this little avenue that he has. I would like to see maybe a couple more T2 PD possibly, just to protect if he is going to fall back, instead of trying to launch an assault this way and try to hold this side of the map. Maybe trying to hold this side of the map in terms of that little valley area would be better, but doesn't look like he wants to be that far forward. Also considering that Unknown has been quote-unquote defeated, so he doesn't want to be sniped by Team 1. Definitely don't blame him for that. Couple of T2 units marshalling forces in the north here for PSA, pushing back against Colorex and Cabat's forces. And it's definitely a nice back and forth here in the northeast. T3 being commented by Nya. Team 1 does have T3 air online. Possible bomber first strategy here for them. T2 air is also online for Colorex as well as for Cabat. So we could see a dual air, actually, excuse me, 3 T2 air facilities online for the Cybran forces in the southeast for Team 2. That is a lot of focus on air power here. One is going for T3. The other ones have not been upgraded or started the upgrade as of yet. They're producing some Corsairs, possibly a sniper attempt, possibly trying to take care of this upper plateau that Team 1 now owns. Units building up here in the south using deceivers to block Team 1 sensors from these units, staging just right outside visual range. We do see that the radar system is right here. Of course, you cannot block radar signatures when you can visibly see the unit in front of you unless you have cloaking, and these units are forced to fall back once again. There is a couple of hoplites in here. We don't see those too much because they are the weaker of the T2 unit. They're like the Mongoose from the UEF. They fire rockets instead of like a modified, essentially quote-unquote Ravager gun on their arm. But, you know, they do have decent range, and as you can see, they are dealing with these T1 land factories. It's going to take a while to chew through those hit points, but they are doing quite well with that. They're going to move back into range of a PD, and of course, visual confirmations will grab those Mantis signatures and go, yeah, those don't exist anymore. And we do see more and more forces building up here for not for Cabat, excuse me, for Nya in the south. I would like to see those rocket bots focus more on the PD emplacements rather than the facilities. We do see that the TMDs do not mess with any sort of the rockets outbound from the hoplites. It doesn't trigger the little flares, even though you would think that because they're pseudo projectiles, they're not technically tactical missiles, they're rockets, so I guess they're different. I guess similar idea, but not really, which is why the TMD doesn't fire. That's probably a balancing thing more than anything else. We do see in the east, Corsairs have actually been diverted over here to deal with these units kind of just hanging out over here and trying to slow Team 1's pushing in on that eastern side. Strap Bomber outbound from Team 1's airplay of Coda, running into a horde of interceptors, though. That's never a good thing for your health. And Corsairs moving in. And that Revenant is losing tons of hit points very quickly. Drops a bomb at the last second. Does get a nice little AoE on Cabat. Drops him into the yellow. But he does get a rank in veterancy from these blazes nearby, and Corsairs coming in to secure the protection of said comm. There is a couple of ASFs in the area, but of course there's a lot of T1 and T2 air forces, and they will chew through the hit points on board those ASF not super quickly, but enough to be annoying. We do see that Corsairs starting to run around the map here. I guess grab the attention away from Cabat. I think that they just wanted to leave the bombers alone possibly, but Team 1 will of course win the air fight, will not be able to kill off the comm, but it will force the comm back even further. Looks like he's going to get on a transport here pretty shortly to get him to some corner of the map. As long as an rogue ASF from Team 1 doesn't come in and see that, he should be fine to get to that lower section of the map and at least away from prying eyes. And Team 1 is winning the air fight, of course, due to the fact they have T3 air. Team 2's Codex does have T3 air now online. Neither of the other two players on Team 2 have decided to go for T3, just sticking with either Corsairs or transports, or just a bunch of engineers. Those also work. We do see that in the south, Team 2 has been able to poke and prod at the outer defenses here for PSA, taking out the land factories, but that's really about it. Nothing really too worrisome here for Team 1, at least at the current moment, but as more and more units start to build up here in the south, that could be very worrisome for Team 1 on this, of course, western side. On the northeastern side, very similar story here in the opposite direction with Team 1 building up a lot of forces. We could see a possible attack over this base here against Colorex, and of course, Cabat is sitting over here with gun and not going for stealth. And that will stop most of this aggression here if Team 1 does notice him sitting there. So it'll be a little bit of a boost for Team 2's defenses, and a nice little T3 Harbinger is now outbound from PSA going down the middle. A couple bombers raining over the top here trying to just annoy whatever forces they can An ASF coming in to try to airlock Team 2. Doesn't really go very well, unfortunately, because there's been a lot of ASFs built up in the interim. That is not going to feel good here for Team 1, especially when they had that bomber very early out. T2 air upgrading the T3 here for PSA. Able to get those restore T3 gunships online, those beasts against other ASF and other air units. Nano repair has been started on Cavat Commander. We'll see if he deploys it to the front line or is just going to reserve it for defense. And still, everything is quieted down. We do see a run-by opportunity here for Team 2's Nya getting in around the PD emplacements. It does look like the bomber from Team 1 has spotted them and will drop right in the middle on top of the rocket bot. That one in particular, it had 2 of them to hit, and it decided to hit that one. A couple of Team 1 mechs is still going down, but that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 mass a second, 12 mass a second that Team 1's PSA is losing. It's not a terrible amount of mass, but it's definitely, it makes a difference. It's, a little bit more than a fully ringed T2 mech. You want to put it in perspective that way. And still more and more forces building up here for PSA. That strap bomber undeterred. Team 2 not sending any ASFs to respond to this. There's really no ASFs from Team 1 to be able to counter it, even if Team 2 does send their ASFs in. So I'm wondering why Colorex isn't sending them in at the current moment. Maybe he's distracted with other pursuits in terms of maybe going for a... No, he's not going for any sort of experimental. It is 17 minutes. It's probably a little bit early for that. Team 2 sitting at 440 mass income. Team 1 at 400, so Team 1 a little bit behind the ball here, about 50 mass a second. Not terrible, definitely a decent amount. Nothing too worrisome at the current moment. But of course, Team 1 still using that one strap bomber and a couple of ASFs to guard it. Just come raiding units outbound from Team 2 and a couple of bricks now online. For Cabot over here, pushing back the eastern side of PSA's forces. Still no efforts from Team 1 to really push back out and go for this fire base in the south here for Nya. Looks like he's just, worrying about other pursuits. Going for a Colossus as of right now. So, and in his air expansionary efforts as well. Wants to get as many ASF or other T3 units online sooner rather than later. Team 2's air grid is slowly being expanded, staying away from being connected to the T3 air factory headquarters as well, just to make sure if any cascade happens, that facility is not harmed. T3 land online for Cabot and T3 air also online for Nya. So we have 2 air players for Team 2 and 1 land player. Team 1 has 2 air players and, of course, at least 1 land player in the form of PSA. PSA has control of both of the Aeon factory forces in terms of, No was the other Aeon. So he's just able to hand that over a lot easier in terms of, not having Cybrid and Aeon or Cybrid and whatever else technology or Aeon or whatever else technology. It's just easier to have everything be the same. Spy planes outbound from both teams to see what's going on Team 2's side of the map. Team 2, we do see a transport with a couple of units outbound from Nya. Looks like it's just engineers. Possibly a snipe attempt with some of those tactical missiles. The strap bomber here for Team 1 is sitting back here, so that's going to be a little awkward. So Team 1, if they're noticing, will barely see those transports on visual contact. You can see a couple of shots outbound as well. I don't know if Coda is paying attention to where a strap bomber is sitting, but those engineers do drop. There's a couple of deceivers nearby as well, and they are going to go for tactical missile launchers, and those units are immediately control K'd just to, again, assure that they don't get detected. ASFs are called in to go over here. They don't see anything. If they do divert a little bit to the west, they will get visual confirmation of that tactical missile launcher being built, but as of right now, they know nothing, just like the name of the player who control K'd, that being unknown instead of unknown. A couple of Harbingers hold the breach against Team 2's forces. Of course, the environment getting in the way of any sort of line of sight on those units for both teams, except, of course, the Medusa don't need line of sight, but the Brick does. The Harbingers do win out the day, and with their abilities to reclaim, they'll be able to scoop that up very, very quickly. That is a really interesting feature that they have, is that they can assist, they can reclaim, and they can repair. A very, very useful unit of the Harbinger. They're like the nice little not variety, but they're very versatile in their abilities. They have a personal shield. They're the fastest T3 mainline unit. they can reclaim and all that stuff. So very good unit. They're not as powerful shot per shot versus Percy's, but they also don't have as many hit points. But they are a really good unit. They're what of course Aeons use for lining up 200 against 200 bricks or 200 Percy's or whatever. Another strap bomber, the one that was sitting over here for Team 1's Coda, going after the comm again. He is at 4-star veterancy and has nano. And that bomber does get shot down while off screen, but does fly back into play, which means that is nice little 1100 mass or so reclaim that Team 2 can scoop up. And the units are pouring into the breacher from Colorex. We do see those missile launches being built up and loaded as we speak, and they all have different targets going after P-Gens, going after, looks like the Colossus is being built, and Mexes as well. So good microing here by Nia. Just wants to make sure he does mass damage, because once those are spotted, that's it. And missiles are outbound. There they go. They all have different targets. They get pinged, possibly by one of Team 1's players. And let's see, they're going to go after the T3 Pigeon and gets a nice grouping of facilities there. Grabs the Pigeon, doesn't kill it. Definitely unfortunate here. Another volley will destroy it, and missile does take out another Mechs as well. Is another volley going to launch? I don't see. They all are loaded, but they're not firing again. Definitely unfortunate here for Neon. He had a great opening, but he just can't follow up with another shot. He needs to fire them immediately. He's going to waste all that mass and energy he spent. Looks like some Team D facilities are probably going to be built here pretty soon by Team 1, and that Colossus will finish. Definitely unfortunate that Pigeon not going up in smoke. And we do see some Team D being built by Coda just to defend. Volleys are outbound, going after other facilities, but the Colossus does finish in time and is denied by some TMD. Missiles going after a nice little ion reactor here. Some of them are shot down, and some of them are deterred by more TMD. It had that one volley. That was it. Had Team 1's Nya just pumped out shot after shot after shot, it would have made a difference. And we do see some gunships outbound trying to, again, go after all the engineers building defenses. Unfortunately, all of them are now gone. A couple of deceivers hanging out, but Team D being launched as fast as they can be once they're built. But there's still some of them that have a couple of missiles loaded. So we will see if it will matter much. It won't. Looks like the Pigeon will survive. That one that was hit once again. It will be shot down by multiple TMDs, so not really a huge issue there. But it was a great attempt. It did a decent job of knocking out some of the air grid. And now a nuke outbound from Colorex. I don't know if Team 1 knows about that. Oh, they do know about it, so they do have an SMD. Is it loaded is the question, which it might be over here. Oh, it's not going to be over here in time. And it's going after, I think, the air grid here for Team 1's PSA. Team 2 wants to have air control. And there it goes. Nuke will land right outside of that SMD. And boom! Kills off everything there. Colossus has already been given orders to go southward and engage the Brick Army in Nya's possession. Nuke killed off 42,000 mass. Definitely a good starting nuke. 42,000. I like to think about, 30,000 at least for one nuke is definitely a nice opener. If you don't kill anything more than that, it's usually a specific target, or it's not as much as you thought it would be, or that sort of thing. But at least trying to 30,000 mass per nuke is definitely kind of worth the time and the effort and all of it to build it, especially if you get air grid or a couple of T3 Mexes, because that adds up. Because even though Team 2's Colorex killed 3 Mexes off, that's 27 mass a second times 3. That's 71 mass. Wait. 81 mass a second. If I can do math, in my head. 81 mass. Actually, no. No. It's 81. Okay, I keep confusing myself. 81 mass a second. After 10 seconds, that's 810 mass a second. After 100 seconds, that's 8,100 mass. Not per second, but overall, it does add up after a while. So it's not just the mass killed that matters, but also how much mass per second your opponent is losing because of that nuke. Those are the two factors that go into it. There is a Colossus outbound from Team 1's PSA going for Nyakat specifically, just because he's right there. They're possibly going after the nuke, I would imagine. And that crab is in the yellow, about to tick over into the green, and the first F-fight of the game, major one, does commence. Strike bombers are outbound, going after that Colossus, trying to tick off some of those hit points, and Team 1 bombers as well. T3 gunships also diverted everything that Team 2 had being thrown at this Colossus. Nukes still able to get a second pass in. The comm of Nya moving in to assist, probably with some overcharge. There are a decent amount of the Harbingers, though. He has to be very careful. And that crab almost finished, but is denied, unfortunately. More strap bombers moving in, at least the same ones from before. Still getting tons of value out of them. Colossus now almost at 2-star efficiency. Nya, I don't know how much power he has in reserve. We can go see. He has enough for overcharge. The Colossus has spotted him. I don't know if the overcharge was enough to kill him off. It does fire, but he is killed off before it matters. Team 2 loses their first play of the game at 28 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock, and I will slow this down again because I keep forgetting it's still at +1. And that Colossus is moving in for that nuke. There is a monkey nearby. That monkey will stop that Colossus, but it did its goal of killing off one of the players on Team 2, and it's going after all of the mixes as well. That's tons of mass per second. Team 2 is losing. Team 2 is up at almost, well, that number has changed quite significantly, but it was probably at least 100 mass per second more. Unfortunately, that Colossus will not make any more effort forward, but of course, it did its job. Lots of mexers are gone. Team 2 and Team 1 almost at the same amount of mass per second now. And at 30 minutes on the clock, let's take a look at the game overall. Team 1 having an incursion from Team 2's Kota. He does have teleporter and laser on board. Team 2 has just suffered a loss in a comm, that being Nyakat. It's now a 2v2 game with Unknown being the first departed of the game. Map control, I'd say definitely in favor of Team 2. I'd say probably 60% for Team 2, 40% for Team 1. And of course, Team 1 sitting at 560, 570 mass per second. Team 2 sitting at just below 590. And that number, of course, keeps fluctuating with power income and all of that. But let me know down in the comments who you think is going to currently win this game. And of course, if you haven't done so already, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so very much for watching this point in the video, and share this video with anyone, everyone, and especially pets who you think would enjoy some nice coverage of Supreme Commander, one of, if not the best RTS games in the world, even though it is not the most popular. There we go. if I can speak correctly, that would also help. We do see that a couple of patrons have now loaded their first SMD, so those nukes are going to be null and void for the time being, and it has now reloaded, and it probably will fire one pretty shortly, I would imagine. He canceled? What does that mean? What? Lasercom got tele-defense. He canceled. Yes, says Nya. I don't know what going on with that, but yes, Team 1's Colorex does have teleporter and laser on board, and he is going in. Where is he going? He's going after Cavat. Cavat doesn't notice as of yet. You can see that the warp signature, or whatever the heck you want to call it, is now able to be seen. Run! Neon's cat's like, run! Cavat's like, oh, I'm going to build some PD over here. That'll work. And we do see some gunships moving in to intercept, as well as a bunch of Team 1 Mantis. The comm is here, but the comm is out of range. Kota needs to move. There's a lot of T2 PD as well to the north. And that comm of Cavat is out of laser range. And there goes Kota. It was a nice attempt at a snipe, but it does not work. Team 1 will lose another player at 31 minutes. And there's now a 2v1 in favor of Team 2. Definitely unfortunate here, though. I don't even know if those ASF had they responded in time would have been enough. They were PD in range. There was one PD that was built. There were a lot of Mantis. There was also the comm firing. It just, I don't know. It definitely would have been probably a little better. I mean, I don't even know he could have teleported out of there in time to be like, oh, shoot, he already knows I'm here. Oh, there's a lot of units there. Oh, I should probably just teleport out of there. I don't know if there was enough time for him to be able to do that or not. It was a nice attempt, but definitely unfortunate, and it is now, like I said, a 2v1 game with with Harbingers moving down the middle here for PSA, the last remaining player on Team 1. A couple of AA emplacements being taken offline, and a nice little T2 mechs as well. Definitely not going to hurt Team 2's eco overall, but 6 mass a second does make a slight difference. Team 2 at 800 mass a second, Team 1 at 650, so Team 2 leading by about 150 so mass per second. We do see that more crabs are being built by both of the remaining Cybern players. Remaining being all Cybern. They were all Cybern players, but still the eco reconstruction efforts have been established or started to be established here for those old mexes for Nyancat, now under the control of now Colorex and Cabat, essentially cannibalizing their teammates' old base, which, I mean, it's been gifted over to somebody, so technically it would be Cabat's, but anyway. Team 1 needs a big flashy play once again to really deal with one or two of these commanders for Team 2. Team 2 is shoring up their defenses with a decent amount of bricks, a monkey, and it looks like the crab is being reclaimed and funneled into another crab here for Colorex. So we have 2 monkeys and a crab moving into the west. Team 1, do you have any sort of other experimentals? 1 Colossus is online, second one about to come online as well. And in the northeast, looks like Team 2's efforts have kind of slowed a little bit, but there's a lot of T1 spam over here for Colorex. Looks like he's just going to, again, assist Cabat with defenses, and he's going to move up with just his higher tech, his far superior technologically advanced units. However, his superior technologically, however that phrasing goes, you know what I'm talking about. You know, a T3 unit versus a bunch of T1 units usually goes the way of the T3 unit. Usually. Not every time, but most of the time. And that nuke hasn't been fired yet. Second nuke about to, be half loaded as well. A little over that. That crab just walking around. And that crab here that was once being built by Nyancat, which almost finished, is going to be cannibalized into other things. We do see that one player is putting that into a crab, or was, and the other com was putting it into mexes. So the 2 strategies playing out here. Cabat sitting at 500 mass income, PSA sitting at 700 mass income, but overall Team 2's, both of the remaining players, almost at 1,000 mass per second versus Team 1's 700. So that's really going to start taking a toll on Team 1's eco if they're not able to hold off the just slow advancement of Team 2 in the south and in the north, as there are mexes that still haven't even been rebuilt yet. And that's mass that Team 1's PSA desperately needs. And he's upgrading most of the other mexes in his main base to T3 and his exterior mexes, but there's a couple of T2s and Team 1s that still need to be upgraded. And it could just be, again, suffering from lack of APM and Subcom Brain, having lost 2 players at about before the 30-minute mark versus 2 players still remaining for Team 2. So it's starting to take a toll, and the walls are going to start to close in here for PSA. He needs a win. He is building some strap bombers. It looks like he's going to make a snipe attempt possibly. I don't know. I mean, he could go after the nuke. He could go after a comm. I don't know if Team 1 knows. Well, they know where one of the comms is, so I guess that's where they might be going after Colorex. Or they might even just going after the air grid here for him as well. And we see some spy planes out for Colorex just to get a read on what Team 1 is up to. Still, the attacks in the northeast have kind of just stopped, and most of, not all, but most of those units here from Colorex get transferred over to Cabat. He might have just not been able to select the rest of them because they're kind of on top of other bricks from Cabat. We do see the slow march of artillery in the south starting to whittle away all of the frontline defenses for PSA on the southern side. And Spy Plane's getting a nice readout on what Team 2's up to. Lots of AA, but I will admit, though, that the AA defenses are not great. There's a lot of T1s. There's a couple of T3s in the mix, which are a lot better, but, I mean, the T1s are kind of nice to have just to have something. But at this stage, you might as well just have T2 or T3. It says, come here, says, Cabat. What? Oh, calm. Oh, okay. That's definitely not the word that I read. That's probably not the word that most of you read. But that's what that means. And that's probably going to be, yep, that's exactly there. Good job. Strap Bomber is getting pinged by, actually, Team 1's player of Coda, probably making the comment that it's not worth sending the Strap Bombers out for Team 2 to know about. And the attacks in the north have commenced, going after those Harbingers. A lot of T3 artillery mixed in. Lots of trebuchets just pummeling any sort of advancing forces here for PSA. We do see that, again, in the middle of the map here, those bricks starting to push in. And the only hard part is there's a lot of, there's a lot of wall sections, not a lot of PD. But it's a narrow neck of environment, which means it's going to be essentially a one-by-one walking simulator at that point. Nothing really to fire at. Tons of strap bombers moving in. I can see an avenue where Team 1's strap bombers could probably easily go on the southern side and move, around that way. The only issue is if they're going after Cabat, that wouldn't really work out. He has some AA nearby, but it's not enough to really worry about. He's getting more of it all the time. Looks like those strat bombers might be making a move. T1 AA is going to do a lot, but T3 will do a little bit more. Kill off a couple of bombs before they reach their target. Cabat is moving. He has a couple of shields. He's hiding underneath. Will it be enough? Cabat drops into the red, but he's still fine. 4,000 hit points. All of the bombers have been destroyed. And that is a second attempt on his life in this game. One, of course, by Coda's commander personally, and one by Strat Bombers just now. And Team 2 will still retain their highest rated player on their team. And he has now just expanded his air grid, and his teammate has now produced another crab. He has a crab up here. Lots of crabs here in this game. Of course, they are Cybran, so that's kind of par for the course. Looks like there's 2 crabs for Colorex, and looks like there's 2 of them under construction as we speak for Cabat, probably just spending his mass as fast as he can. Another Strat Bomber running around the map here. There is a couple of T3 AA units now outbound, so Strat Bomber is going to be a little less effective now due to the fact that there is some essentially mobile SAM sites online. We do see that the rest of those forces from Cabat have now taken the lower section of the map here for Team 1's PSA, and he's losing mass per second. Still at 770, but Team 2 is now skyrocketed to 1.2k mass income. Almost at 40 minutes on the clock. How is Team 2 going to end this game? Just produce a bunch of crabs and monkeys, or in nukes. That was also a good idea. 2 nukes are loaded in that silo. So number 3, technically number 4, but the third one that's going to be sit and kind of slotted next to the other 2 are going to be loaded here pretty soon. Team 1 does have adequate SMD defense and getting a little bit more all the time, but really needs to deal with that nuke problem, because all it's going to take is a couple of units to move in, and there goes all of those SMDs. Lots of AA being built here by Team 1's PSA to deny all of the everything up here. And we do see down here, Crab is defeated by a couple of Colossi, a couple of monkeys as well. The Colossus turns around and goes, oh, there's still another crab for me to kill. Unfortunately, that Colossus is not going to live to see the light of day. 2 monkeys were defeated. 2 Colossi, 3 Colossi were defeated, so I think Team 2 will take that trade, especially with mass sitting on their doorstep. That's about, I don't know, let's say 50, let's say 80,000 mass down there. There's tons of strap bombers, tons of spy planes inbound to get a total readout of what Team 2 is up to. Another crab has been completed by Cavat. Another crab is almost completed by him as well. And interestingly enough, not to see any sort of game enders or disruptors or any of that sort of thing in this game as you get from either team. From what I've noticed, we do see that 1 T3 artillery has been started by PSA. It is the Emissary. It is the best one, to be fair, in my opinion, of course, but I still think it is the best one in the game. In terms of T3, T4, that's a different story, but definitely T3. I think the Aeons have the best T3 stationary artillery. Of course, we see that troops have landed, well, not landed, but just kind of traversed this middle section and raining into the main base here that once belonged to Coda. Strat bombers moving in that have been built up, waiting to get another go at Cavat's commander, are being diverted over here. But the mobile AA intermixing is just killing off any sort of secondary runs, and T3 Mechs is being eviscerated by mobile artillery to the north by those trebuchets. Colossus will get some veterancy on board that experimental, but it will stop this push outbound from Team 2. So it's a little bit of a mass donation, but considering the mass donation they just got from Team 1, I think they'll take the trade any day of the week. Scathis has been started by Colorex, and it's going up decently quickly here. How's this mass bar doing? Well, he has 26,000 mass in the bar to spend, so that's what he's working on, trying to get rid of. He doesn't want to overflow mass unnecessarily, because of course that's just wasted mass at that point. I think it was a Guile cast a long time ago that he commented that it'd be funny if there was a mod that if you overfill mass, or essentially you fill up your mass bar that's overflowing, it just spills out the side of those mass storages, so you just get piles and piles of mass sitting here, which would be very funny, but also would be an interesting mechanic, because if your opponent was essentially overflowing mass and you were sitting next to a mass storage that they own, I wonder if you could like reclaim the mass that's just like essentially just piling next to them. That'd be very interesting. But anyway, that's what I think of when I think of somebody filling up their mass bar. It's just mass essentially just spilling over the sides, just like a cup of water or something. You do see that Colossus trying to get as many kills as he can on that lower section of the map. Unfortunately, most of those units get in behind that mountainside, and a couple of units actually dropped off by transports, and the air grid for the Cybran department of PSA's forces has been destroyed in its entirety besides the T3 air headquarters, and that's going to put a damper on that Revenant class strap bomber production. I don't see him going for any sort of Aeon versions, and this is very interesting. I just noticed this, that his artillery is actually in the middle of his air grid. Definitely needs more shields, to be fair, but it's a good use of space, essentially saying, well, I'm going to get rid of one air facility and just plop in an artillery. The only question with that is it going to finish in enough time for him to take out the Scathus that's currently being built by Team 2? Excuse me, sorry, I'll rephrase that. The two Scathi, or Scathuses, depending on how you pronounce it, or how it should be pronounced, being built by Team 2. We have two Cybrans that could easily be working on the same, essentially mobile unit of the Scathus, but are like, no, I want my own. So one is building one is building the other one. This one has been started a little bit sooner, of course, but this one is going up pretty quickly as well. So now it's just a race to who can finish the Scathus first. If it will finish before the game is over, though, forces again landing on this northern section of Team 1's main landmass, cutting off a lot of mass income here for them. Sitting at now 500, was at 700 at some point. We do see that a couple being 3 of them are outbound. There are some strap bombers trying to slow down the approach, dropping its hit points quite quickly, but all Team 2 has to do is send in their ASFs. There's a lot of spy planes. Those are not ASFs, and all the ASFs from Colorex are moving in for those strap bombers. And they are getting in range of the T3 AA SAM sites. They will kill off a decent amount of those ASFs for Team 2. And the ASF fight does commence once again. But those crabs are almost in range of that artillery. The artillery will definitely finish before the Scathus does. But if that T3 artillery is destroyed, I think Team 1's hopes of fighting back in this game are dashed. Again, this Scathus, they're both in the yellow, and this one is actually slowed down quite significantly. This one is caught up at 4,400 hit points. And those spy planes that were sitting in range of those crabs are now defeated. You can see how close they are. Colossus moving in, another one being built as we speak. Looks like everything has been diverted over here, or pretty much everything. And those crabs still sitting barely out of range. Let's see, Colorex, you can see it's barely out of range of that T3 P-Gen. And it's just not enough air power here for Team 1 to really fight back. Multiple Colossi actually diverted to the east instead. Definitely unfortunate because there's no air coverage for them. One of them bites the dust. They would have been better suited over here taking out these crabs, but it's just going to give mass to Team 2 over here. But they are still making their way down south. 44 minutes on the clock. The only issue is going to be, will those Colossi make any sort of damage on Team 2? This facility here for Cavat isn't super important. These two lower ones, the one for Colorex and the one for Cavat, are. One crab is defeated, the second one being hyper-focused by a bunch of T2 PD. The P-Gen is going to go offline and volatile to explode. One shield resides and is online. One crab is still online. Still, the emissary remains. And I think the micro for that crab is a little bit not great. Needs to be walked up a little bit further. But second Colossus is down. Third one starting to get in range of some bricks that had just been built a couple of moments ago. We do see that Colossus is just shedding hit points. Everything being diverted to go after this thing. Dropping into the red quite quickly now with some strap bombers being added to the mix. And I think that Colossus is having some walking issues over there, or pathfinding issues. The third one goes down, and that is going to go nowhere here for Team 1, unfortunately for PSA. That third crab is still alive, and Team 1's PSA just control Ks, just teleports out of this, says see ya bye. Actually, he's still sitting right there. So he surrenders. Team 2 wins the game. That Colossus move was the only way I think that he had to really fight back at this. You see this Scathus is in the green. This Scathus is halfway over. So again, if both of these players had decided to focus on one of those Scathis, either or wouldn't have mattered. It would have been built, but they did win the game nonetheless. Maybe it was just a way to just spend mass, possibly, but that mass bar is gone. Cavat has literally a tiny bit left, but not really a whole lot. And overall, I think I think Cavat had a little bit more impact on this game than Colorex did. Of course, Colorex did have the air control for most of the game, and attacks from Cavat, though, was what sniping at Team 1's eco quite significantly, of course, taking on a ton of mass up here. Of course, you had Bricks moving in from the north to go after whatever this last facilities or two remained for PSA. You had the Crab that definitely could have been macroed a little bit better and could have easily taken out that artillery. But I do think one of the, not necessarily game-ending moves, but one of the missteps here for PSA was he sent his Colossus this way. I know what he was trying to go for, but Team 2 had so much air power and was able to pump out so much as those Colossus reached their base that it would have been better to just hold position, grab all the mass, finish the emissary, and then try to take out something on Team 2 side of the map. He didn't know. I mean, you can hover over. He didn't know what this was. It was unknown. If you hover over, you do see that that is the Scathus. But hindsight and all that sort of thing. But I think Cavat, with the attacks in the north and with some attacks from the south, and again, constantly raiding and doing what he was doing, I think he deserves MVP for this game. Let me know down in the comments if you agree or not. If you, of course, haven't done so already, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so very much for watching to this point in the video, and I will see all of you in the next one.